I think the road to zero starts with locators using tracer wire when they're available, or following the best process, the technology currently offers. Because so many times we find marking off tap because they're in a hurry, or using mapping when, our guys clip on with the tracer wire. We're like, hey, it's right here. Don't even bother to do it. So I like all these ideas, but I'd like to see some accountability. Did you mark this facility with the best way that you possibly could? Start there.
That's the biggest obstacle. Where is it? I was just talking to a large contractor last week that keeps track of 2 feet, I think it was, of the locate, and 60% of the marks are outside of 2 feet of the locate where they were on their job. More information, the better.
So, from a technology point of view, are there different technologies that we can, bring into play to try and help with that, or to just decrease damages in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I work for a company that designs and manufactures locating or guidance systems for the horizontal directional drilling. We've produced a product or a system, data logging, since the late 80s. To date, I think contractors, maybe 25%, take advantage of that technology. And there's numerous reasons why that is, but there's plenty of technology that people have invested in developing that really isn't being taken advantage of. And it's only getting better with the advent of GPS locates and survey grade locates to assist the contractors. And we're very curious from our standpoint how many people are going to take advantage of this as the technology gets developed.
I think it makes sense. If you're a locator, you're a contractor, you're an excavator, if you're doing some kind of subsurface mapping, that you use all the tools that are available to you. So, do the manufacturers have to do more? Do the locators need to do more? Probably all of us.
I'd agree with that. I think there's more accountability on the contractor side from our point of view. Look what you're saying. When you show up on a job and the locates are obviously off or marked, not marked, and you didn't get a heads up beforehand, now you got the crew sitting around. You have to be a responsible locator now and not dig on that site because it wasn't located correctly. You're incurring a loss.
It's just, if you have a map in front of you and you know where it is, it's...
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the accuracy of the data too. And I think what Jim brought up before is because, I don't know, you guys may know this as much as I do, but the accuracy of certain facility owners' data is scary sometimes.
Yep.
And they admit it. Admit it. And it's funny because then you'll talk about, okay, well, why don't you do something about it? Well, it usually takes a lot of investment. And unfortunately, it's usually a big pile. If that's the case, it's already been built up as far as bad data. So you'd have to start from here and then work your way to present and then move forward. But then it goes back to what Jim said. Why even use that data if you know it's garbage or if you know it's shaky? Because then you might actually be putting yourself at a detriment, right?
Yeah, I think it's XYZ coordinates. I think it's GPS in our facilities. We got to start someplace. It's gonna, probably not gonna happen any of our lifetimes here that we're gonna have, 100% coverage of these utilities. But again, I hear a lot of these different, problems. There's a bottleneck. There's communication. I'm still I'm standing on my, soapbox and beating the drum of you don't know what you don't know sometimes, and that's when we don't know the exact location of utilities. That's a big deal, right? It's crap in, crap out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I'd agree with that. Not a lifetime maybe, but if we aspire right to zero damages, what's preventing us, right? Well, if we could think of an ideal situation where either a locator or an excavator goes on a site and has a tablet, and that tablet has all the information of anything that ever occurred in that site, right? The ideal situation, there you are, right? That your ability to know exactly what's there is in your hand, right? So the question is, if we are serious about zero damages, is why can't we get to that situation?
It seems like one of the biggest drawbacks too, or things holding us back, is a central repository for this information. We've talked about security risks a bunch of times today. And the point is always brought up, while I can't know ahead of time what's underground, I can call 811 and they'll mark it for me, right? So it's a security risk to send me necessarily prints or anything like that, but I can have it marked. And when we talk about exposing holes, and while we're there marking everything, if there was a central place that everybody had access to for both the upload and download of information, then every time there's a project, we could be working towards building better and more accurate maps.
So
And everyone could use it.
I'll throw the counterpoint out. Business intelligence. I don't want you to know. I'm a telecom community.
Sure.
Right? I don't want you to know what I have. Why? Because we're competing.
Absolutely.
And now you can't call 811 to find out what I actually have in the ground. You get a mark. You can dig it up. Well, we know he has a fiber here. Does he have a fiber 2 blocks over? Now I can simply go look. Oh, he's underserving this neighborhood. We're going to build here. Sucks to be you. We already got all these customers.
Is the information stored not, it's your telecommunication cable and it's this exact material or anything like that. It's just, there's a line here, not yours. Doesn't matter if it's yours, anybody's. It's just that here's a line. And in order to get that information, you have to be a licensed you have to have some type of prerequisite met so that it isn't just for everybody. Maybe that's kind of an intermediate step.
Well, you could think about it in terms of encryption as well. Like if you could encrypt the entire database, but you would only decrypt one segment in order to protect the integrity of the security.
Sure.
We have to get to a point where locates that are being performed, the data is being gathered and uploaded to the cloud, and as an industry we have to find a way to collectively store that data and have it accessible to the stakeholders. And I know that there are security concerns around certain utilities, et cetera, but somebody made a great point, I think it was yesterday. They said, if I was a terrorist and I wanted to know where a gas line was, I could call 811 and they would come out and mark it for me, right? So I think we may need to evolve our thinking as far as that goes from the security perspective. And I understand, there may be some certain government facilities that you're never going to see on a map. I completely understand that, but general utilities, yes, we have to get to a point where they're being mapped and the data uploaded to the cloud. And if you look at the locate manufacturers today, pretty much collectively all of us have that capability to do that today. And the industry has to figure out how we're going to gather and store all of that data.
We've done some installation of RFID markers on gas services, which I think is another interesting technology, because if you query it, it'll say, I'm here, which is another. And I think the big question is, how do you get thousands and thousands of miles of infrastructure tagged so it's identifying itself? I mean, but the contractors could play a big role in that, because we're the ones that have it all exposed. If there was some way that we could gradually knit together all the electric cables and all of the utilities, even if they're not the utilities that belong to our customer, but rather we mark them as we went with RFID or some way of them broadcasting. Eventually we would have a pattern there, and I think it'd be very helpful to everyone.
I think that, GPR is underutilized, but I think it's underutilized purely from making the technology quite complicated to interpret. It's not always an exact science. You're going to walk out, you're going to find the pipe, and this is what we're going to see on the screen. There's a lot of interpretation that comes from that technology, and I think there's a fear in the technology with people that don't understand the technology.
We do private utility locating all across the United States. GPR is one of our primary technologies that we use, and it can be challenging to get somebody in a comfort zone to go out and interpret the data. And training, experience, it's all part of building that confidence of that individual. So when they do look at the data, they feel very comfortable with it.
The contractor's not aware, maybe just aware of the technology available out there, the advancements in technology, or just the capabilities of the GPR. So I think awareness, situational awareness of that, especially on the contractor's point in the field, situational awareness, and just being aware of what's available technology-wise. And then other means, maybe having like a sonde or other locators, and how to bring those pieces together would help bridge said gap. So just more education and awareness.
Yeah, the road to zero, I think, starts right here. CGA, GCDPC. We have our internal COC meetings where you come discuss what worked, what didn't work. What are the best practices? What are you finding? Better engagement with the locator better planning, maybe changing something. You know, all of this stems from these meetings. You know, and somebody said it earlier, and I'm right along with them. I feel something. I don't know what. I've been seeing a lot of movement in different states. Virginia's really tough with their laws. If you don't report a damage, we're coming after you for not reporting it. You know, New York has a baseline. Don't know how good it's going to be, but they have a baseline. But this is the journey. And how do I find out about the journey? What other people are doing? What are they doing in New Zealand? Oh man, that's great. I like the idea. You know, put the excavator in the driver's seat. You control all of it. Here you go. Here's the maps. Get the locator. You can spend as much money as you want to make sure those locates are right. You want him out there for 3 hours, make sure that service is right? It's on you. Our locate company, you got 15 minutes. Get that service job. Get that service marked. I need you on the next job.
I think one thing we're probably forgetting about, you know, if we have the excavators take responsibility of locating, it's just what's that going to do to the contract sizes? I mean, I can imagine like I don't know if what you guys would do, but it's I can imagine in Minnesota if contractors are responsible for locating, I mean, the contract size is going to go, you know.
One of the big contractors has decided that we have these laborers, right, that are on our jobs, on these road projects. Let's teach them to locate, right? That they would do the locate. And then we would just be there to, if they needed verification or something else after the fact. So that is something that's being discussed. But I do think the liability piece, a lot of the contractors don't want to take on the liability piece from a locating standpoint. But it is something that's out there.
But I think they have to weigh that, right?
Right, they have to weigh the benefits.
They have to take off, yeah, exactly, the benefits.
Yep.
Because I also hear, you know, it's the downtime.
Mhm.
And how much time are they burning in downtime?
Right.
They could be working on another job while they're waiting for a locate.
Yep.
So I think that's, if you gave that option to the excavator, you know, if you go to Europe, you know, they call it into a one-call center and they get all the maps and then they go out and beep and squeak and they do their own, they take on the liability.
Right. So I think that's a valid point. Again, I think it's just a cost benefit for the excavator.
I think the barrier to that in America right now is the 51 call laws, because they're already written, and to change 50 different laws would be very hard to do. But I do think we could start movements in that direction. Give someone an option, you know, as to the law that you come in and you say, okay, I'll sign this off, or I'll sign a contract that says, no, I'm going to do my own locating. I'll take care of it.
And it's already being done.
I think you'll get some more efficiencies out of it.
In some cases, because some utilities now require their excavating contractors to locate their facilities. So it's already being done in some cases. But that's just their facilities, right? It's not gas, electric, telephone, cable TV, municipal water and sewer. So when you're talking about that dynamic, that's part of the problem as well.
I think there's an opportunity to move the needle, even, and there's been discussions about this in terms of the level of education towards the actual locator. You can have a master plumber, why can't you have a master locator? Why can't you have a national accreditation that people can, you know, value and understand that if someone has passed this, they therefore can do this job appropriately. You know,
so we can do that for excavators too, right?
I think you should. I
Sure,
think you
why
should.
not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah. But that's a level playing field, right? We're all playing by the same.
Yep.
I'd be all for that. That'd be great. Then you're not going to get undercut by some guy that's not following the rules. And
Yeah, that was one of my examples.
They're just certified to do that.
Yeah, that was one of my
I guess.
examples. I could go rent a pour machine, get a, you know, I actually know a little bit, but I could go out and start working tomorrow and not have any experience, other than you're gonna pay me how much? Oh yeah, I got this. Oh crap, I hit some. How big's the bill? Bankruptcy.
it would serve a lot to attract more people in the industry, because it gives you some kind of grounds and path to want to be part of the industry, and you could see, okay, yeah, I'm valued as a professional. I'm a, you know, say it was a master locator or something like that. It just elevates the profession, which can only do good things for attracting the right kinds of talent into the industry in the first place.
Well, you know, conversely, we offer training for our products continuously year round, and we've been asked to provide certificates. And there's a legal problem with that for us. I certify you as a trained locator, then you go out and peg something. The liability now shifts back on the person who trained you. So we provide certificates of attendance, you know, and here's your shingle, put it on your wall, whatever. But to make it's a wonderful idea if everybody running this stuff is qualified, absolutely. But when you start saying certificates, who's the party that establishes?
Well, I don't think that has to be on the manufacturer's side. I think that has to be bigger. You have to think bigger picture. That has to be something that's led and mandated by not the manufacturer of the equipment, because that's exactly what will happen. The liability will shift back onto them because they're saying this person is capable of using this equipment appropriately.
Recently up in Wisconsin, they had a very tragic accident in Sun Prairie. It was a gas leak. And the local law enforcement up there began to an investigation in whether there was criminal negligence in the excavating practices or in locating. Is that good or bad?
Well, it's certainly an eye-opener, and it's the big red flag that went up. I was unaware of that. That's a perfect example of what I've just said. If the industry, our industry, doesn't make sure the people out there locating are qualified, this is going to happen again. This is absolutely going to happen again. So,
and the way most industries work, that comes back to the contractor. I mean, it may not be the guy in the seat, but it might be the employer that might be responsible for that and show the criminal negligence. So talk about incentives. Is that a big incentive?
I think it underscores the seriousness of it all. I mean, lives are literally at stake, right? Responsible excavating, responsible locating, knowing what you're doing and being familiar with this kind of stuff is huge. Like, it's literally life or death. So I think just something like that underscores it, and there is accountability, and somebody's going to have to pay for it, and it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But definitely think it's an eye opener for sure.
Because if you hit a point where you're accepting a damage or an injury or a death, it's different. Otherwise, you won't get any better. You'll just say, oh, well, we made it, we're only having one damage a year, and then you stop, and then all of a sudden you have two, well, that's okay, and then it's three. Now you're accepting. I think you have to push for zero. It may be the unreachable goal, but, and no, you're not going to spend an infinite amount of money, cost considerations, risk versus reward, all of that'll play in. But if you don't try to get to the top, you're not even going to get halfway up. It's just my opinion.
So as a company, knowing that 90% is good enough, the problem that we would have is just from a safety standpoint, we would not want to put any of our people at risk for anything. So it would be a conflict for us, even if the industry said, all the utilities and everybody, City of Chicago said, hey, 90%, we'll give you 10%, don't worry about that. Then we would be in the catbird seat saying, well, which employee is going to get hurt?
We could put dollar value on damages. I could tell you what it costs, the man hours, but maintaining, our uptime is of huge importance. So that's why we work so hard on damage prevention. I see benefits, but again, it's easy for us to talk here. But when I go to my boss and say, I need you to spend $30 million, for what? Well, to prevent it. But we're only having $10 million worth of damages. Why would I spend $30 million? The math's not working.
Here at Planet Underground, we continually strive to bring you timely and unscripted content covering the most important issues facing the industry today. By bringing together the brightest minds from all corners of the underground utility world, the Roundtable once again delivers honest opinions and insights on the trickiest problems we encounter on a daily basis. We'd like to thank each and every one of you who helped make this happen. From the support from our sponsors to viewers like you, Planet Underground is able to make these conversations heard. So thanks again, everyone, for watching. And remember, change is possible when we all work together.